Matthew chapter 8 is an incredible passage of scripture. In these 34 verses, we read about Jesus healing a man with leprosy with a simple touch and calming a storm and setting a demon-possessed man free through the power of his words alone. And that's just to name a few. Can you imagine walking with Jesus and seeing all of these miracles happen? To see Jesus touch a man with leprosy and watch his skin clear up in front of you? To see Peter's mother-in-law sick in bed and then not only see her healing take place, but then to have her wait on you immediately afterwards? What an incredible way to see God reveal himself to his disciples and to those watching. What do you think seeing those miracles firsthand would do for you and your faith? I venture to say most of us would say it would solidify it, would make it rock solid, unwavering and firm. I mean, how can you watch those kinds of miracles take place and not be convinced for life? However, I think the disciples give a clear depiction of what would most likely truly be a reality for us after this miracle upon miracle upon miracle journey. Let's take a second to read a piece of Matthew chapter 8 together today. We're going to start in verse 23. Then he got into the boat, and his disciples followed him. Without warning, a furious storm came up on the lake, so that the waves swept over the boat. But Jesus was sleeping. The disciples went and woke him, saying, "Lord, save us! We're going to drown." He replied, "You of little faith, why are you so afraid?" Then he got up and rebuked the winds and the waves, and it was completely calm. The men were amazed and asked, "What kind of man is this? Even the winds and the waves obey him." Now, remember, the disciples are fresh off witnessing a host of miracles, things that should not have been possible by any stretch of the imagination. Our logical minds tell us that they should have nearly invincible faith at this point. However, as they're in the boat, headed across the lake, and that huge storm surprises them, they are struck by only one thing. Nope, it's not faith. They are struck by fear. In an instant, these professional fishermen, men that know how to handle themselves on the open water, men who have undoubtedly weathered many a storm in their day, find themselves so terrified of this storm that they wake up Jesus, who's sleeping in the boat, shouting, "Save us! We are going to drown!" Now, can I just say, I feel for the disciples at this moment. Honestly, I think the disciples get a bad rap for being afraid of this storm. Why? Well, because, friends, it is almost an understatement when I say, I hate storms. I actually vividly remember being very much an adult, married, living the full-on adult life when I was so gripped by fear because of severe weather in our area that I found myself huddled in my bedroom closet, pillow over my head, crying and yelling uncontrollably at my poor, sweet husband as he tried to console me and remind me that everything's going to be okay, while I yelled at him through frantic tears that he in fact did not love me and obviously wanted me to die, all because I didn't feel like he was taking this threat to my life, this fear that I felt, seriously enough. You guys, I grew up in Oklahoma, right in the middle of Tornado Alley. Much like navigating storms in the fishing boat was nothing to the disciples, navigating severe weather and tornado watches and warnings was nothing new to me. You'd think I would have been comfortable with storms at this point in my life. I knew what to expect. I knew what to do. I was armed with tons of knowledge and experience, and yet when that weatherman started talking about tornadoes, I became an absolute, stressed out, worry, and fear-filled mess. Why? Well, because in moments of true fear, all logic goes out the window. You're no longer thinking with your brain. All wisdom and knowledge and experiences seem to fly away on the first wind that blows. And you find yourself instead being driven and fueled by one thing: fear. I have a feeling that's exactly what is happening to the disciples in that very moment. Yes, they had seen God heal this person of an incurable disease, but this is now me and my situation and my fear. Yes, he did those things before for them, but can he really deliver me from my storm? Everyone ever been there? I know I have. But I just love Jesus' response to their cries of sheer panic when they woke Jesus and cried, "Lord, save us, we're going to drown." Verse 26 says, he replied, "You of little faith, why are you so afraid?" And then he got up, rebuked the winds and waves, and it was completely calm. His response isn't, "Why did you wake me? I was getting a much needed and well-deserved nap. Didn't you just see how hard I worked healing all of those people?" No, he first addressed them and their faith. After all, his concern wasn't for himself, but rather for them, and not for their physical safety, but for the strength and security of their faith. So he gave them that little nudge that says, "Hey, remember that faith you just had?" Or in other words, remember that faith you had in me, the one who just walked with you as I performed miracle after miracle, the one who can do the seemingly impossible with the touch of my hand or the word of my mouth. Yep, I'm still here. I'm still faithful, and I am still God. And it was then, after he helped them to set their perspective back where it should be, not on their fear of their circumstances, but on their faith in him, that he then spoke to the storm and brought total, unexplainable, and without God, impossible peace. So if you find yourself in the middle of a storm, whether that be a storm of loneliness or loss, uncertainty or worry or fear or any number of things that could be clouding your vision, I encourage you to follow the lead of Jesus. Don't beat yourself down with your thoughts and feelings of how you're unworthy. Don't try to muster up the strength and faith to weather the storm on your own. Instead, take time to cry out to the Lord and say, "Help me, I'm going down." And in doing so, remind yourself of how worthy he is, and encourage your faith by remembering the Lord's faithfulness in the past, both to yourself and others, as you wait and watch him work a new miracle in the present. Today, as we close out our time together, I want to encourage you to encourage one another's faith. Have you seen God work a miracle in your life or in the life of others? If so, share it with us in the comments. I'm talking about small ones, like God reminded you as you walked out the door to grab something that you needed for the day, even before you left, all the way to God healed you of a disease, provided for a need, or showed up in a supernatural way. Let's encourage each other with stories just like this chapter is filled with, and remind ourselves that he is the same miracle-working God, yesterday, today, and forever.